Hello everyone, we are back again for another short video, short-ish video I should say. These are about 6 minutes long on our Michael Hauge planning and plotting system. This is the main system that I use for planning my books. So let me once again tell you that every single book is a journey. It is both physical and emotional / mental / psychological journey. Depending on the type of book, it's going to be potentially one more than the other, but every single story is about a journey that your main character or main characters go on, okay? So we just got done talking about, actually it was a couple hours ago, but we just got done talking about the second 25% of the book, Act 2, which is going to be the middle portion, the middle 50% of your book. And that is your main character or characters physically and mentally changing, and sometimes it's slightly against their will. They don't necessarily like change. A lot of humans don't really enjoy change, okay? And at 50% of the way through the book, roughly, okay, it can be like 47.6% or 52.3%. I'm joking, obviously, but somewhere around 50%, the main character has to reach a point of no return. This is where, again, they cannot go back to where they once were physically, but more importantly, they cannot go back to where they once were psychologically. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, now your main character, this next 25% of the book, again, a lot of action, a lot of development. The main character now needs to realize that they are changing. It needs to be scary. It needs to be filled with anxiety and trepidation and all of the above. But the main character has no other option other than to embrace the change in some way. And so they're dealing with that change. They're probably fighting against that change in some circumstances of the book. Nonetheless, they're definitely changing. This is where we ramp up the change a little bit. We've been gradually changing. I used the rom-com movie Mean Girls as an example. And again, this is where the Lindsay Lohan character, Katie, she is now fully invested into the Mean Girl friend group, and she can't ever go back. She is in, right? She's like a spy, kind of a ninja, and she's going to expose the Mean Girls, and by doing so, she becomes a mean girl herself. This is the point where she can't go back. She can't go back to this innocent, naive girl that she once was. So how do you portray this in your book? That's up to you. That's up to your genre. But now we ramp up the change a little bit, right? We ramp up the change. Your character starts to respond to situations a little differently. Their dialogue changes. Maybe they're maturing. Maybe for whatever reason they're kind of becoming a jerk. Maybe they were a jerk and now they're becoming a really genuine, nice person. Whatever the case may be, maybe they were once rich and now they're poor now rich. You know, you can probably come up with any sort of circumstance that might make a whole lot of sense, but we have to start showing that change. And again, man, I know I sound like a broken record, but I love showing this change through dialogue and through action. How does your character respond to situations, the same kinds of situations that we had earlier on in the book, and how is your character speaking, okay? Now, this next 25% of the book, this is where your skill as a writer really comes in. We got to be good writers here, but at 75% of the way through the book, so now we're 3/4 of the way through the book, we reach yet another checkpoint. This is our 4th checkpoint, and this is the major setback, okay? This is where your main character or main characters have a major failure. Now, we know, especially in the American literary tradition, that our main character, there's other cultures out there that don't necessarily always have happy endings. For American literature, Western literature, oftentimes we do. We know that our main character, we know that our protagonist is going to win at the end of the story, but we need to portray this major setback in such a way that the audience really believes that maybe the main character doesn't succeed. Maybe they do fail. So this is, again, this is called the major setback. I'm going to use the movie Mean Girls again. This is where Katie, the Lindsay Lohan character, actually writes something really mean about one of her teachers in the burn book. Right? She's trying to expose this burn book, and it gets out. It gets out that she wrote in the burn book, and like she has really, legitimately, literally become a mean girl herself. Major, major setback. Parents don't want to have anything to do with her. Mean girls don't want to have anything to do with her. Old friend group doesn't want to have anything to do with her. Boy that she likes doesn't want to have anything to do with her. Teacher doesn't want to have anything to do with her. Man, her life is in shambles. Okay, so how are we going to do this in our own book, in our own story? Right? There needs to be a major setback. Your character needs to feel like a failure. They need to have a major failure, and they need to try to figure out a way to climb out of this failure. Now, this is really, really exciting part of the book because, as you'll see in the next video, by overcoming this major setback, by figuring out how to deal with this failure, your main character actually truly becomes successful, and they truly learn who they are, and they actually become the new person that hopefully we have envisioned them becoming by the end of the book. Right? Now, let me just say this before I end this video. If you have not thought about how your protagonist begins the book versus how your protagonist ends the book, man, you need to sit down and do that. That is majorly important. Whenever I coach younger authors, I always tell them the first thing that you need to know is how does the book end, and how does the book begin, and how does the book end? Okay. So hopefully this is helpful. 75% major setback. Make the audience feel like your main character is going to fail, and if you do a good job of that, man, you are going to write an engaging story. So as always, happy reading, happy writing, and until next time,